Hi, my name's Alan Greyeyes. I'm the festival director for the sākihiwē Festival. We are based in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Treaty 1 territory. And before I begin, actually, I'd like to just offer condolence to everyone who's lost loved ones in the pandemic. Also, those who've lost loved ones that were outside of the COVID-19, but still weren't able to honor their loved ones in the ways that they wanted to. I know I lost my father last month, and during the pandemic, it's really hard to handle that kind of stuff and grieve with the lost loved ones. So I just wanted to offer condolences around the world to whoever's tuning in might want to hear that. I'm broadcasting from Treaty 1 territory. It's the homelands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Dene, Oji Cree, Dakota folks, and also the homelands of the Métis Nation. So the sākihiwē Festival, we launched it in 2009. It's run by an organization. Our nonprofit is called Aboriginal Music Manitoba, and the organization started in 2005. The original mandate was to just develop programming to make sure that Indigenous people were always included in national and regional events that came to the city, and also to build a place for them to perform. So yeah, we weren't left out, as was the case in previous generations. I myself am a second degree arts administrator, or second generation arts administrator within the Anishinaabe Nation. I'm very lucky to have some incredible people that were able to blaze some trails and open doors for me. And so again, I'd like to acknowledge folks like Errol Ranville, Lisa Meaches, Elaine Bomberry, Dave McLeod. These people definitely were at the forefront of getting Indigenous people included in programming and finding us places at the Juno Awards and Breakout West, and also the launch of the Indigenous music program at Manitoba Music, which is kind of where I got my start. But yeah, so the sākihiwē Festival was launched in 2009, and it was actually launched as Aboriginal Music Week. At the time, Aboriginal was the catch-all phrase, or I guess the legal definition for generalizing and aggregating First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. We chose that title simply because it made it easier for public agencies, funding agencies, and also private sponsors to figure out what it was we were doing. And again, it was a week-long format, so we had 5 days, which I guess is not a week, but it was 5 days of programming, and we ran it alongside the Manitoba Festival for the first, I think, 3 or 4 years. And we're a small organization. It's a volunteer board. I ran the event as a volunteer for the first 9 years, and we really just tested ideas. And while we were testing ideas, the really great thing is that we were able to pay artists, and we were able to put Indigenous artists in front of Indigenous audiences. And so within those first couple of years, we definitely tried out some new things. We were a part of the first festival experiences for a lot of great artists. And one of the favorite stories I like to tell is, because I think a lot of people know who A Tribe Called Red is, but the first time we brought them in, it was tough. It was November of 2009, I think, or 2010. It was 2010 because, yeah, they didn't come in the first year. And we had been watching this incredible movement coming out of Ottawa, which was bringing Indigenous folks, young parents, young professionals, and activists and academics, everybody, bringing people together, creating a space for Indigenous excellence. And so when we saw that, we were like, we've got to bring it here. We've got to bring it to Winnipeg. And so I reached out to the guys. They didn't have management at the time, and there's actually 4 of them at the time. But again, it was just incredible. And so they came. We had this 400 capacity room, and there was like me, and there's Wab Canoe and Leonard Sumner, and Isque was there, and a handful of other people. There's probably about 20 of us in this 400 cap room, and but still, that power was there. That movement was there, and it's something that we continue to invest in for the years that followed. And I guess it was the years that follows, but within that first year, 2010, 2011, I think we brought them back 2 or 3 times after that first kind of 20-person event, and the audience grew, and it continued to grow. And again, it created a space for Indigenous folks to come together and to feel pride. And I think, like, for myself growing up, I didn't have a lot of positive visuals or positive things to look into the media and see about Native people. I think the generalizations really kept us limited to the roles of politicians, or the roles of criminals or homeless people, or not activists, but rebels, really. People that were, creating blockades. And again, those are really powerful visuals. But at the same time, I think I was always starved for examples of Indigenous performers or Indigenous people, lawyers, or festival organizers. And I think, like, what A Tribe Called Red did and what we were able to do here in those first couple of years is really take some steps forward in representation. I've been a lot involved. I guess I got my start in 2005 as well as the organization. And so it's been a long time, a good 15 years, 16 years of testing ideas and being a part of it. And recently I found myself involved in a lot of inclusion and diversity discussions. And those are really great. I think, like, the more seats that Indigenous people can get at existing tables is going to make Canada a better place. I really think, like, our role as the arts is to, challenge stereotypes, and using all of our stages to educate Canadians and to show Canadians that, there's more than what they're going to find in the media or the history books or on their elementary schools or in the Hollywood films. And so, again, I think, like, every stage gives us an opportunity, and again, those opportunities are great. Performing at Canadian festivals is really great, and it's super important. And that's kind of one of the things that we're trying to do as a festival is develop more talent to perform on those stages. But at the same time, we need an opportunity to build our own tables. And for us, that's been again a good, I don't know, 2009. I don't know how many years we've been doing this now, but we're still, like, at a loss for operating grants. And so it's a very tough situation to be in, not having operating grants. And I realize in Canada, operating grants are something that's like a privilege that our counterparts overseas or in the US never really experience or don't have access to. And so, but since we've been operating and running an organization, and again, I ran it as a volunteer for the first 9 years, to not have the opportunity to even compete for an operating grant, to have those doors shut at the federal, provincial, and municipal level makes it really hard for us to build capacity. Makes us really hard for us to send out performance offers to Indigenous artists across the country before the Canada Council Touring Grants in December. We're always managing the financial risks of project grants. I recently, our festival is next month. And it's usually in June, and I got to acknowledge that I also have to note that because of the pandemic, a lot of the granting organizations are behind schedule. But we just received results from one of our main grants last week, and that's about 5 weeks ahead of our festival. So within that structure, this is the lane that we're restricted to. We can't, access that bigger pot of money because we're restricted to that lane. We can't we can't send out the same offers. We can't make those same investments in presentation conditions, and we can't make the same promises to corporate sponsors ahead of time. And I think we're always trying not to lose money, trying not to put ourselves in a bad financial situation. And that means that, if I don't get the project grants confirmed like 6 to 8 months ahead of time, and that's not even the best practices for engaging private sponsors, then we're out of luck. And so, again, it's a chicken before the egg situation. It's something that, we're working towards. I guess we're trying to build a case. we're trying to get invitations to join these operating grant programs, and to also, again, it's about building our own tables. A big part of our festival, and I alluded to it earlier, a big part of our festival is developing capacity for Indigenous artists. And so we consider ourselves now, after, I guess, our history of running and testing ideas and finding our place within the national scope and international community, we consider ourselves a launch pad for Indigenous artists. And so just like a Tribe Called Red, where we invested in them multiple times, even after the first concerts didn't work out, or they were awesome, but again, financially they didn't work out. But yeah, I think it's our role to take those chances that other presenters might not have the stomach for, or the capacity for, or the audience for. And our event is completely free. We take block parties, which we call them block parties, but it's concerts with bouncy castles and free hot dogs and activities and face painting and stuff like that. We take them to low-income neighborhoods throughout Winnipeg's, I guess, North End and West End for the most part. And that gives Indigenous families in the area access to the arts and the ability to participate in a music festival. And so that's our audience. We engage them oftentimes, but at the same time, we're programming things that are artists and acts that we think are important for them to see, but also acts that we believe in, and acts that are super nice people, obviously, but acts that we think are going to have the ability to take those next steps. And from our festival, they could go to the Winnipeg Jazz Festival next year, or the Winnipeg Folk Festival next year, or the Calgary Folk Festival next year, and Illuminato, or so the idea is to like get them ready. And a big part of my role is the contracting, but also, like, once we have them contract, I spend a lot of time with each of the artists, just helping them build the business practices that they're going to need. Last week I had a call with two of the emerging hip-hop artists that we have that we're presenting in our concert series this summer, and we just talked about like adding your signature to a PDF, and the applications that are available both on the phone and on the desktop or laptop. We also talked about invoicing. We talked about what a high resolution photo was. We talked about what and I give them examples of stage plots and tech riders. These are all the things that, I think Canadian presenters expect every artist to have. And we are in a position, I think it's our role to help those artists figure out what those are, and to also develop them. And so they're ready to take those next steps. I think just letting them know that, this presenters are there to put them in front of audiences, but they're also there to have relationships and to be real people. And I think it's important for the artists to realize that they are customers, and you have to treat your customers really nicely and take care of them. Otherwise, they probably won't come back. And so it's, I think, again, that's our role. Not only helping them develop audiences here and get in front of other presenters through our website or the networking opportunities that I have, but also through just having those skills ready and those business practices ready. But I'm going to backtrack a bit right now and just tell you a bit about some of the things that influenced my beliefs and the beliefs that we carry within the festival. One of the main ones is that we believe that arts and cultural deserts have the same negative effect on our mental well-being as food deserts have on our physical well-being. And that's to say that these families in low-income neighborhoods that don't have access to art programming, don't have music lessons, or can't afford tickets all the time for concerts, they need the arts just as much as the folks in the suburbs, or the middle-class families, or the families that are doing a lot better. And I believe that, if they have access to the arts, that they can see themselves reflected in the acts on stage, it's going to encourage them to express themselves, to get the things that are on their chest that are weighing them down, to get them into the world, and to do that in an artistic way, I think. And I think that's one of our roles, is to introduce them to that outlet. And so that belief is based on a presentation that I saw Dr. Sarah Diamond do at the Canadian Arts Summit a couple of years ago, and she talked about how the arts deserts in Toronto's were impacting each of those communities. And we already had this model developed where we've taken art music to these neighborhoods, but it really fits within what we're doing and why we do it. And so again, I just wanted to acknowledge Dr. Sarah Diamond's work for that thing that we carry, that teaching that we carry as well. We also believe that every stage gives us the ability to challenge stereotypes, and we need to use those stages. I talked about this earlier. We need to use those stages to educate Canadians, to show Canadians that, you know, we don't all look the same. We don't have braids, we don't have long hair. A lot of us don't have dark skin either. Like later on today, you're going to see Iskwe, and she's a great example. Somebody who comes from our community, carries a lot of the teachings, and is using her voice and her movement to educate Canadians and to challenge stereotypes. And so that's one of the things, along with learning the business and practices and skills and stuff that we pass along during the performance or the festival experience to the artists. I also spend time with people who want to learn about like the history, the historic injustices in Canada, to learn what the possibilities, where the gaps are and what the systemic barriers are. And so when they're doing interviews with the media, that they can take those messages and share them as well. Also, like, we have other artists who are just incredible. And I tell them that, you know what, you don't have to speak about Indigenous anything on stage. Just the fact that you're incredible and audiences discover that you're Indigenous is going to carry a lot of weight, and it's going to challenge stereotypes. And I believe that, you know, I watched a movie, I can't remember what movie it was, but he said the opposite of poverty is not wealth. For a lot of people, the opposite of poverty is justice. And so I think, yeah, if we can, you know, help these poor communities, help Indigenous families who don't have the same advantages and privileges as us, if we can help them by educating Canadians, maybe they'll experience justice as well. And I think that comes in the form of, you know, not being assaulted by the oath-bound or police officers or the RCMP. It comes from, you know, going into a courtroom and the juries or the judges seeing all the possibilities, all the hopes and dreams of like an Indigenous person. If I was in a courtroom, I'd hope that they'd see that I have a family, I have hopes and dreams just like their loved ones, and I have possibilities too, and that I don't represent, or I don't walk into that courtroom with them thinking that I'm like every other Indigenous person that has walked in that courtroom. And so I think that's, again, that's the role that we can play as presenters. That's the role that we try and pass, or that's the message that we try to share with the artists when they come through our festival. And that's the generational change that we hope to be a part of as well. I made some notes, but I just deleted them when I was talking. So yeah, and again, some of the lessons we've learned over the last couple of years, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about, is that Indigenous artists don't automatically equal an Indigenous audience. And so it's something that we've learned, like, again, starting out in 2009, I really thought that, you know, we build this with Indigenous artists that are incredible. Indigenous people will just show up. Indigenous people will come to our concerts. And what we've learned is that's not the case. And so we do it because we want Indigenous kids and families to see themselves reflected in the acts on stage. We want them to see that everything is possible, that they can follow their dreams. But again, we had to change our directions a number of times. We started out using concert venues in downtown Winnipeg and hoping that the artists or the families, the audiences would show up. And they did in some respects. Like attendance was okay. Like it wasn't sold out by any means. It was maybe like 50% capacity. But what we learned is that, yeah, just because it's an Indigenous artist doesn't mean Indigenous people are going to come or want to be there. And so we found that, again, through audience surveys, that a lot of the times these kids weren't showing up because they were afraid of going into other neighborhoods. We have some gangs here in Winnipeg, which I'm sure a lot of other cities do, and so we learned that we had to take the music to them because it was a safety concern. The financial concern was another big thing, and so not having the ability to purchase tickets all the time, or to have babysitters watch their children if it was a nightclub show. And so again, we had to take the music to them. And that's what we found success is. Again, we're reaching Indigenous families by taking the music to them. We're eliminating a lot of the barriers, and we're hopefully having an impact that will have a generational, or I think, what am I trying to say? I think we're hoping to make the world a better place, I guess is the easiest thing to say. And I believe that we're able to do that with the arts. And so again, tune in to watch sākihiwē later today. Tune in, actually check out our website, sākihiwē.ca, which is SAKIHIWE.ca. We've got an artist directory there, and there's a lot of, most of the profiles, I'd say 95% of the profiles have contact information and videos embedded for the artists that we've presented in the past. And there's a number of great ones, along with the Tribe Called Red. Like, I was really super fortunate to see Jeremy Dutcher when he was still just starting out, and before he had managers and agents too. And I'm sure a lot of you know how incredible he is. We had Tanya Tagak in a small community center here, which was again incredible. And Chris Dirksen in 2009, playing the cello in a big theater here. And again, you'll find a lot of their profile or their contact information and their music on our website in the artist directory. I'd encourage you to watch who is really great. Like, obviously William Prince is doing really great, and we had him in our songwriter concerts in June and July, and those videos are available on YouTube. And we've had Reet, who is really great. And Burnstick this year. I'm a big Samantha Crane fan. She's not from Canada, but she is also quite incredible. And before we conclude today, I also just want to mention that we are launching our own conference this year. It's called sākihiwē Music Mentors. A really cool part of it is we have a panel with the powwow community. And so for you, those of you who don't know, there's a huge powwow network, our competition powwow network in Canada. And we have drum groups, we have hand drum groups, competitions with dancing. And we're going to have one of the first panels to talk about the respectful use of powwow music and contemporary music, and also help them figure out a lot of the copyrights that are involved and stuff that they should be taking note of when they're signing contracts with recording studios or record labels, or music publishers, because there is, I believe that the powwow community is super strong, and it's a movement that more Canadians and definitely music lovers around the world are going to catch on to pretty soon. Just to note that the Northern Cree Singers, I think they earned their 9th Grammy nomination in 2019. And Steve Wood, who's the founder and leader of Northern Cree, is going to be a part of the panel. So again, just all the details are on our website. Registration is free. The conference sessions will just be on Zoom. We're not going to be super fancy, and they'll be streaming online. We're going to be broadcasting the panels, and then following the panels in the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to have interviews with each of the panelists to give our participants more opportunities to ask questions and learn, and to also build rapport. But with that, I think we have a lot to talk about, and I'd love to answer questions. I don't think we can do that right now, but I encourage you all, just again, my contact information is listed on the website. If you have any questions about what we're doing, or if you need any leads on Indigenous artists who might be able to perform at your event in your neck of the woods, please definitely reach out. My name is Alan Gray Eyes, and I'm the festival director for the Sākihiwē Festival. I'd like to thank the Global Toronto team for this opportunity. And again, I encourage you to check out sākihiwē. Check out the artists who are performing today. I think they've done a great job in curating this group. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of voices that are really important and that you guys should tune into. But thank you.